back to Math&Me with me, Nikhila Sankar. So let's get into the chapter Limits and Derivatives. So first we'll start with some few relations and formulas. Okay. So first you have the notation limit x tends to a of f of x plus g of x. So you have a function f of x and you have another function g of x. Okay, and there is some x which tends to some constant a. Okay, so a is any point on the number line. Okay, so it can be here, it can be negative values of x or it can be positive values of x. Okay, it can be anything. So it is a constant value and x tends to a. Okay, so how can you split the limit? This is for addition. So you can split limit x tends to a of f of x plus limit x tends to a of g of x. Okay, so basically if it's in addition, you can split the limits. Okay, so same applies for subtraction. So subtraction can limit x tends to a f of x minus g of x equals limit x tends to a of f of x minus limit x tends to a of g of x. So what is this limit basically? You have a function and we are saying that the value x tends to some value. So for example, if in the number line your value of a is here and your f of x is some function which is maybe x square minus 2. Okay, so if x tends to a na, x oda value a kitta podhu. So it can be, for example, if the value of a is 1. Okay, so you can have either 1.1 or you can have 0.999. Okay, any value that is in and around 1. So the value of x tends to a na, it tends to the value 1 but it is not exactly equal to 1. Okay, but while solving the problems we'll substitute the value of a itself. Okay, இது வந்து problem solving காக, but actual meaning என்ன, அந்த வேல்யூக்கு டெண்ட் ஆகுது ஆனா அந்த வேல்யூ இல்ல. ஓகே, இருக்கு ஆனா இல்ல. எஸ்ஜே சூர்யா சார் சொல்லுவார்ல, சோ அந்த மாதிரி. ஓகே, so this is for subtraction. What is for multiplication? Again the same thing applies. So x tends to a of f of x product times g of x equals, if it's in product you can still split it. Okay, so limit x tends to a of f of x and limit x tends to a of g of x. Basically you can multiply and then find the limit or you can split them. So first in the limit கண்டுபிடிக்கலாம், அப்புறம் இந்த limit கண்டுபிடிக்கலாம் and you can finally multiply them. Okay, next comes the division. X tends to a of f of x divided by g of x equals limit x tends to a of f of x divided by limit x tends to a of g of x. Okay, so there's one more thing which is you have a constant lambda. Okay, so lambda can take any value. It can be a fraction, an integer. So it is basically a whole number, a real number. So you have limit x tends to a of lambda times f of x. இப்படி இருந்ததுனா this lambda is not dependent on x. It is not a function of x, correct? So this lambda can be taken out of the limit. So you can have lambda times limit x tends to a of f of x. So basically you can find the limit and then multiply it with the constant. Okay, so you have three more theorems which says limit x tends to a of some x to the power n minus a to the power n divided by x minus a gives me n a to the n minus 1. Okay, so this is one relation and there's another one. Limit x tends to 0 of sin x divided by x gives me 1 and limit x tends to 0 of 1 minus cos x divided by x equals 0. Okay, so these are a few theorems or identities you can call them. So we'll use this while solving examples and exercise questions. So they will be used then you'll see, okay, when we solve the question you'll see how it's useful. So maybe I'll do this derivation for you. I'm not doing this. So 1 minus cos x என்ன எழுதலாம்? Trigonometry ல என்ன படிச்சோம்? We have cos 2x equals cos square x minus sin square x or 1 minus 2 sin square x or 2 cos square x minus 1. இத்தனை relation படிச்சோமா? So இதுல ஏதாவது ஒன்று எழுதலாம். So cos 2x I have 1 minus 2 sin square x. இப்போ here I have only cos x. So my coefficient of x is 1. So what will I get? Cos x equals 1 minus 2 sin square x by 2. You can change. If you're changing the coefficient to be just x, so in that divided by 2 panna, ingum divided by 2. So I'll have x divided by 2. Okay, so I'll substitute this here. So I have 1 minus cos x equals, bringing this to the other side, I have 2 sine square x by 2. Okay, so this can also be written as limit x tends to 0 to sine square x divided by 2 divided by x. So I'm going to write this as 2 times sine x divided by 2 times sine x divided by 2, the whole divided by x. Since I know this identity, limit x tends to 0, sine x by x. So I have sine x term here. So what is my coefficient here? It is x by 2. So I can multiply and divide by 2. So this particular term becomes 1. Correct? Sine x by 2 divided by x by 2. Limit x tends to 0 of 2 sine x by 2 divided by x by 2 times sine x by 2 divided by 2. What will be my next step? Limit x tends to 0. I am taking this 2 outside since it's a constant. I have sine x divided by 2 divided by x by 2. So this is one term. I have taken the 2 outside. What am I left with? I have limit x tends to 0 of sine x divided by 2, the whole divided by 2. So I can take that 2 outside. So I can cancel the 2 and the 2. So this term I'll be left with a 1 according to this relation. Correct? Limit x tends to 0 of sine x by x. So sine x by 2 by x by 2. So this tends to 1. And what is this? X tends to 0 now. This will become sine of 0 by 2, which is sine 0, which is 0. I'm substituting the value of x as 0. So sine 0 and 0. So this is how you prove it. Okay. Next we have the left hand limit and the right hand limit. So left hand limit na enna, right hand limit na enna. You say limit x tends to 0 minus, or it can be any a minus. Okay, so let me take it as a minus of f of x, and my right hand limit is limit x tends to a plus of f of x. You have a number line, you have the value of a. What have you learned? Limit x tends to a of f of x. What is a minus and a plus? It is some value which is just to the left of a or just to the right of a. So a minus na, it will be to the left of a. A plus na, it will be to the right of a. So when do you say that your limit exists? When does a limit exist? When you have the left hand limit equal to the right hand limit, you say that the limit exists. What is your step? You have to find your limit x tends to a plus of f of x, and you have to see if it's equal to the limit x tends to a minus of f of x, which means limit x tends to a of f of x exists. Okay, so this exists. So this is how you write some proof statement. Okay, so you'll understand all this when we are solving examples and exercise questions. So let's move on to the examples. So example 1, first subsection, when you have limit x tends to 1 of some function. So this is my f of x plus g of x plus h of x. Moonu function irukke. So how can you split this? First question, I'll write the entire thing. From the next question, I'll directly substitute the values. Okay. So limit x tends to 1 of x cube plus limit x tends to 1 of x plus limit x tends to 1 of 1. Okay. So this will be your first step. Second step, I'm going to substitute the value of 1 to x cube. So what will I have? I have 1 cube plus, idhukku substitute panna, I'll have 1 plus, I can take this out of the limit and I don't have any term that is dependent on x. So I'll only have 1. So what is 1 cube? 1 plus 1 plus 1. So my final answer is 3. So you just have to simply substitute the values and then add them up. Okay. So if second question, I'll directly substitute the value. So what will I have? X 3 input, I'll have 3 into 3 plus 1, which is 3 times 4, 12. Okay, very simple. Next question, what do I have? X tends to minus 1 of this term. So what will it be? 1 plus x order value minus 1 plus x square plus, and it goes on. So x cube, what will it be? Minus 1 the whole cube plus minus 1 the whole power 4 plus minus 1 the whole power 5 plus minus 1 the whole power 6 plus minus 1 the whole power 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, so what will it be? I have 1 plus minus minus 1. So it will become 1 minus 1. Yeah? So 1 minus 1. It becomes a 0, but I'll write down the terms first. So minus 1 to any even power, it will become plus 1. Odd power, minus 1. So what do I have? Power 4, power 5, power 6, power 7, power 7, power 8 now, positive 1, power 9, power 10. So what do I have? 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1. So everything will get cancelled. So I'll be left with the last one in the end. Okay? That's all. You just have to simply substitute the value. Correct ah edunga. Adha ellame cancel agudhu appdin 0 nu edirakoodadhu. You have one that is left in the end. Okay?